Fully maxed out graphics like this is beautiful. However, it does come at the cost of visibility and therefore a detriment to gameplay sometimes. In this video, I'm going to be going through how to change your graphics settings from going like this to this. Now this video is going to be split up into 3 different parts. However, 2 parts can kind of intertwine with each other sometimes. There's going to be your base settings, which anybody can do. It's just changing the settings in the graphics tab in-game. There's then going to be modding, which is going to be adding mods that will help out for visibility, all of it being completely legal from wgmods.net. And then finally, there'll be the UI changes, which will be changing your preferences.xml file. Now, all of this is completely above board and legal. The changes in the preferences.xml file is literally just your settings in-game, which you can't normally get to like fine-tune in-game because some of the settings are just like blocked out. For example, how many times have you tried to change your mouse sensitivity and it's a slider and not a number? In the preferences.xml file, that will actually be a number. So it's stuff like that that you can just fine-tune settings in-game. And all that we would be doing with that XML file is just changing the UI size. So by default, you either have 1x or 2x for the UI size, when in reality, you could go in and change it all the way down to 0.1 or 99999, whatever. Anyway, let's begin with the in-game settings, and just to minimize the clutter in the game and also changing those graphic settings to be as clean as possible. So once you're in game, go ahead and press escape, or alternatively go to the top left and click the little gear icon and then go to the settings page. Now under the general settings, there's not too much to change, although for battle interface, you can get it to being a little bit cleaner. For example, you do not need this optics effects in sniper mode, and you definitely don't need to see your animated dog tag or the dog tags of people who destroy you. So you can get rid of all the dog tags right here. Some of you may want that, that's fine, it's up to you, but if this is about getting as little clutter as possible off your screen, then obviously remove the dog tags. Now there isn't anything else in here that I would really worry about regarding clutter, but there is one setting that I recommend everybody to change, which is tips on battle loading screen. Make this your mini-map. The reason why this is good is that if you have a slower computer, this will allow you to see where you've spawned while you're loading in. So you can then make a more informed decision while loading in. Now for the graphics tab, there's not really too much in here that isn't personal preference. For example, FOV, I'd recommend that you choose between 100 and 120 just to see a little bit more that's going on around you. And the color adjustments, you can just choose whichever one you kind of like the look of. Although, if you do want it to be as clean as possible, then probably just turn it off. As you can see here, I usually run it on deep, but if you want it as clean as possible, then turn it off. Then you won't get any kind of extra effects that are going on. You could also just leave it on default, which is as good as having it off. So it's up to you. So let's leave it on default for now, just for this video. Now make sure 3D render resolution is at 100% and do not enable dynamic adjustment. This will make sure that you are running at your native res the whole time. Now once you're in the details tab, this is where you can decide how much of the graphics you would like to sacrifice for visibility. At the moment, this is with everything absolutely maxed out, and I don't recommend absolutely anybody to play like this though. Straight away, turn off the terrain tessellation. This currently seems to be bugged in the game because it basically just goes out to about 50 meters or your proximity range, and then it just ends. And it's really off-putting when you're actually going forwards and you can just see like the ripple effect of it changing. So I wouldn't turn this on at all. I'd also disable foliage transparency. So as soon as you go into the bush is no longer there on your screen when you're in sniper mode, and you can just see clearly through the bush. Grass in sniper mode, disable it, especially on ridge lines. If you're playing a ridge line, that thing needs to be disabled because it gets in the way a lot. And going down to effects, disable the extra effects in sniper mode and disable the enhanced destruction physics. Scrolling back up, disable motion blur, and you could apply this, and this is a pretty good settings that I would recommend people to use. This doesn't sacrifice too much in regards to the quality of the game, but also gives you a big boost in the visibility. If you'd like to go one step further, then go ahead and disable all the effects down in the bottom here, and then click apply, and this will give you a lot more kind of leeway in regards of seeing things through explosions and other things that are going on in the game. And to go one step further than that, put the vegetation quality and the grass density on low and off, because this will allow you to see so much more of a map if it has a lot of grass and bushes on it. Now, some of you may want to turn the post-processing all the way off. All this does is kind of darken your screen in certain areas. I actually kind of like it leaving it on, so I'm just going to leave it on for the time being, but you could, if you would like it, turn it off as well. The same thing can also be said for shadow quality and lighting quality. A lot of people like to have it something like this. However, again, this is kind of just more down to personal preference rather than decluttering. So I'm just going to leave my settings like this for the time being while making this video. And now we are greeted with these sort of graphic settings where there is no grass anymore. And as you can see, overall, even in just the garage here, it's a lot more visible. Now for the next stage, which is going to be modding the game into getting better visibility. Now there's only two things that you really need to download, which is Aslan's Water Tanks mod pack and also Fog and Glare Remover FPS++. Now the reason why you need to download this is only for my kind of reason, which is that I only want the Sun Glare Remover mod and not the fog as well, because I actually quite like having fog in the distance on the maps. I think it makes it a little bit nicer to look at. So for this video, I'm going to be doing fog and sun glare. However, just know that if you would like to just have the sun glare, then you can do so just with this download. So once you've opened up Aslan's mod pack, just click next, 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 choose where you have water tanks installed, and then go ahead and click reset at the top right here. There's only actually a few things in this mod pack that you need to actually make the game looking better. Now, I have made a full mods and settings video, and I have all of my personal mods that I use every day in that video. So if you do want to check it out, the link will be in the description. But for this, I'm purely just going to be speaking about the visibility mods. Now, straight away, you're going to go all the way down to the non-XVM mods branch and choose Jimbo. Now, this is for your contour icons. The reason why I'm including this in visibility is that each icon has its own different color. You can then quickly just discern what tank's what just by looking at the icon. And you don't really need to have the big battle information at the top, although, again, you don't have to get rid of it either. Next up, scroll all the way down to graphics performance, and this is only really going to be for people that have higher refresh rate monitors or people that just want more FPS. Because what I would recommend you do is do set FPS limit 1000 and then both garage and in battle. And then what you can do is go ahead and lock your FPS through NVIDIA control panel or AMD's control panel, whatever it may be, whatever graphics card you have, or even RTSS. But this is super important for people that have higher refresh rate monitors because the garage is locked to 60 FPS. And while the garage being locked to that isn't exactly game breaking or bad or anything like that, it's just so much nicer to use at a higher refresh rate, because then you're going down to 60 Hertz and it just feels so stuttery. So use that if you do have a higher refresh rate, and it will be nicer to use the garage. Fog remover, this is where I was saying about earlier. Fog remover and sun glare, that is what I like to use. I mean, I actually only use the sun glare normally in day-to-day mods, but in this one, I'm going to do fog as well. Then go down to what tweaks, which is still in the same section of graphics performance. It's just at the bottom here, and disable the exhaust smoke, the wreckage smoke, and the tank destruction effects. Now, do not disable the rest of these because I feel there is a fine line between visibility and helpfulness. Because if you do too much, you can then sway towards it being actually a detriment to gameplay because you have too much visibility. For example, disabling the shell explosion effects, you can tell where shells come from in the game when they explode, right? So if you don't have this at all, this can sometimes be a problem. Exactly the same for tank hit effects. If a tank gets hit, you don't always know it if you have this disabled. Yes, sure, you'll hear it, but sometimes seeing it is actually a lot more information for you than actually just hearing it. But the exhaust smoke, the wreckage smoke, and destruction effects are super nice. As soon as the tank's destroyed, the wreckage is just there. That's the destroyed tank state. It's no longer there's effects of it blowing up or anything like that. It's just dead. And then also the wreckage smoke, there is no smoke on any tank wrecks, which means that you can just quickly see over them without any issues. Now under the next bit, which is garage, if you scroll down to a little helper collection, this actually helps us out way more than nearly any other mod that is in this, because this will help us out with the UI issues that we might face in game, and we can get rid of so much of the extra fluff that the game provides us. After the little helper collection, you just scroll all the way down until such point as you find the removing of no dirt at the bottom here, which is in the customization, textures and models. This will just allow us to remove a lot of the dirt that may accumulate on the tank, making it look a little bit nicer. Now at the bottom here, there is a UI scale mod, and yes, it does work. However, the way that I'm going to show you how to do it will affect more global stuff than the mod can actually do. But I'll talk more about that in the next part. For now, click next and then go ahead. Don't delete the game cache, just do these two and then install. Once you've done all of that, load up the game, make sure that you have this little icon down here, and then you can go ahead and click Champy mod settings. From here, just take note of what I have. You can pause the video so that you have all the information there to you, and then just click apply and then OK. This will allow you to get rid of the elite levels, the annoying noises that when a tank dies, you know how you get like the little notification noise that a tank has died? That will get rid of that. You'll get rid of all of the excess UI in the garage, such as special offers, events that are going on. You get none of that. You have a nice clean garage and nice clean UI when you're in game. It'll also get rid of any help messages such as press this button to go into siege mode or something like that. So lots of quality of life features that just get rid of the fluff that is in the game. Obviously read what each one of these says before disabling them, but you can make your own mind up for which ones you would like to keep on. The biggest one for me is disabling RT stun effect, actually, because this one makes it sound like you're underwater as soon as you get hit by a stun round. So this then just removes that completely. So here we are once we're in game. As you can see, there is no grass at all going on. We have nice clean UI with no elite levels or anything like that. Everything is nice and simple. One thing that I will say is that I obviously have the show vehicles markers on battle scoreboard. I have that disabled. So usually you would have it like this, whereas I obviously just turn it off. It just adds a little bit more cleanness. Although if you're a new player, I probably recommend you just leave it on. I know just from, as I said, looking at the Jimbo contour icons, what each tank is now. I don't really need a symbol at the very top. All I need is the hit points for the team. But as you can see, nice clean setup. And if that's all that you want, then there you go. That is job done. Let's now move in to the UI scale though, because the smaller UI size really can make a big difference to what you can actually look at and see at once in the game. Now, to get to your preferences.xml file, you are wanting to go to your app data folder. To do this, hold down Windows key and R, and it will bring up this little box. Type in %appdata%, and then you're brought to this screen. Go to wargaming.net, World of Tanks, and then you will see preferences.xml. Right click this and click edit. Once you've done this and opened up this file, you should see something like this. You can then go all the way down to the bottom and then just scroll up a little bit until you see interface scale. Now, because I'm on 4K, I will have 2 interface scale. This is ×2 for the interface. If you're on 1080p or 1440p, you're probably on just 1, something like that. So for 1440p, I actually think that the UI size is perfect. But if you want to go to that for 4K, you're going to have to go to 1.5. And for 1080p, it is going to be 0.5. And that should give you close to what 1440p UI size is. Now, there is one thing to note with doing this, though. And that is that little icons, such as class icons, can sometimes get distorted a little bit. However, I think the trade-off of having slightly distorted icons in return of having just a much smaller UI size and less like a mobile game is nicer to have overall. Now, for me personally, I will leave it at 2 for future videos and everything like that. And that is purely because I make content on the game and I want people to actually see it if they're just watching it on a phone. However, if you're just playing personally, there's no reason to not drop down your UI size to make it a little bit more comfortable to play with, especially on a bigger screen. So 0.5 for 1080p, 1 for 1440p, and Alternatively, you could increase the UI size as well if you were on 1440p and wanted to make it a little bit bigger. Say you are used to 1080p resolution and now you want to make it into 1080p, you would just go to 1.5. So for me, I'm on 4K, I'm going to go to 1.5 resolution. Just click save, which is Control S, and then you can exit out of here and load up the game. It's as simple as that. You're not changing anything to do with the game other than that little tiny UI size. And then once you log in, you should see that your UI size has dramatically changed. Everything is a lot smaller now, and you can fit a lot more onto the screen. So you can have a full list of your stats down on the right hand side without any worry, especially if you've used the Champion mod settings where you get rid of all of the XX tabs. Then you have all of this just on one screen on the right hand side, and you have so much more room for your tank carousel. You have more room to actually view the tank, and you can quickly go ahead and select your equipment and consumables with a lot more ease. This is less big. It's less like playing a mobile game when choosing your equipment, and it's more like playing an actual full-fledged desktop game. And when you're in game, this is what you should see. You should see that the UI has shrunk massively, and this is now more indicative of a desktop game rather than a mobile game. Now, you can obviously just change it. If you don't like it, you just go into settings and then click this interface scaling to either 1x or 2x and then click apply, and it will change it all back to normal. There is no issue with that. You will have to then go into the XML file and change it back manually if you wanted to go to the 1.5 or 0.5, but you could just quickly change it to being bigger again if you want it back the way it was. As you can see, there are a few issues. There is obviously the icons down the bottom left right here, which are a little bit distorted. And also, if you did see when I was getting shot at, the kind of damage icons are really small in 4K. And that is purely because this is what it would be like at 1x UI scale. I don't know how to increase or decrease the size of these icons. However, is that a big issue? For me, no. I can still see what I'm getting shot at by and where it's coming from. So that's not too much of a problem. I would like it to be slightly bigger, but not that much bigger either. And obviously, just quickly speaking, yes, the UI scale mod does exist. However, the over-the-head icons wouldn't be affected by the UI scale mod. And neither would the crosshair or anything else like with certain UI elements. So you would be stuck with bigger crosshair, big damage numbers, and big over-the-head icons, but then you could adjust the UI size. So it's really weird in that regard, which is why I recommend that you would just do this rather than... I can't believe he didn't let me ram him. But yeah, it's why I recommend that you just go through and manually change it rather than using a mod. But the UI scale is quite nice for just the garage stuff, because it will allow you to change the difference between garage and also game. So you could have two different UI scales if you wanted to. But yeah, that is the ultimate World of Tanks settings guide for clean, no fluff, no excess, just pure gameplay focused World of Tanks. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, and let me know which setup you might choose. I'll see you all in the next one.